anything related to trauma, psychology, epigenetics, family history, metaphysics. It's like we're swimming in some waters that are pretty deep, and so the way I would interpret this, if for you the listener, if you are skeptical of that, it's like there's a lot of different ways for a lot of different things to come through, and we are so in the dark on so much of this. It's a relatively new. I mean, even just modern psychology in general is really I mean, Freud and the unconscious mind, it's like, what is that, early 20th century? So it's like, this is a very, very new, um, these are new concepts in general that we're playing around with. And, I'm just excited about ideas and having the discussions to try to figure out, what's right. I'm curious to zoom in on this parts work. Um, one of the things you say around healing your trauma, and this is kind of a calling card of yours, is to heal your trauma, you got to love your trauma. Um, Talk to me about that. Like, what does that even mean? Because you've already said several things that feel very counterintuitive to most people. It's like, love my trauma. Why would I love something terrible that happened to me? Like, walk me through that a little bit.
So the first paradigm we want to crash into is that, well, even back further than that, every single person on the planet has trauma. Every single one of us. I have trauma. Andrew has trauma. We all have trauma, right? So if we set a standard and say, oh, if trauma is, quote, common, okay, then it helps us get a new standard to say, okay, this is okay. I can now then begin to heal it. Okay, so we'll start there, because there is still a level of shame, I think, associated with like, oh no, I'm not traumatized. I'm good. I certainly didn't go to war, so I'm not as traumatized as that person. Right? What I will say is the nervous system cannot differentiate between the acuteness and the severity. Trauma is trauma is trauma. Okay? So, and it all needs to be released. It all needs to be processed. So how does that happen? And why do I say in order to heal your trauma, you have to love your trauma? Because in order to heal trauma, you have to reestablish neural pathways with parts of you, the actual parts of you that were traumatized years ago. And typically what we're dealing with is childhood trauma, right? Because if we look at the theory behind internal family systems, which is parts work, is we're made up of parts. So no one is traumatized. There are parts of us that are traumatized. And so that could provide right there a level of, okay, wait a minute. I'm not effed up. I'm not broken, right? Which is absolutely true. You're not. So those of you that are watching or listening, you're not effed up. You're not broken. You're not a hot mess. Okay. There are parts of you that was traumatized years ago, decades ago, a generation ago, whatever the case may be. So in order to heal your trauma, you have to love your trauma. What does that mean? We have to reestablish a new relationship with the parts, the original parts that were traumatized. Because what we've done, Andrew, you're a parent, right? You've got young kids. I have kids. My kids are no longer young, but I remember, and Andrew, you probably remember, or maybe it's now, when your children want you and they say, Dad, Dad, Daddy, Dad, Dad, Dad. Yeah, I can even tell your energy right now. You're like, shut up, David. This is bothering me. Which, by the way, that's a trigger. That's a trigger, okay? Because they want our attention. And why wouldn't they, right? So our parts are very much like our children. They want attention. And once upon a time, they didn't get it. An unmet need happened when they were 7 or 10 or 12 or 15. And then that trauma, that dysregulation of the nervous system remained intact. So what do? We need to, as a 50-year-old man, need to go back, right, and actually have a conversation with the 12-year-old, what we call the exiled part, the actual part that was traumatized, because there's other parts too. We're going to get really complex in a minute here. There are other parts that are trying to protect that part, that are, in essence, what we think are standing in the way. They're really not. They're trying to protect the original part that was traumatized. And those are what we call triggers. So when we feel inside our body, the hot sweats, it's in my chest, heart palpitations, my heart rate starts raising, I start sweating, I'm pitting out, whatever the case may be. We get angry, we get sad, we get depressed. Those are all triggers from those parts that are still going, hello, dad, dad, daddy, dad. Except they're not saying dad, they're saying Andrew, 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 Andrew. And traditional thought says, just get over it. Stop thinking about it. Do something else. Drink it away, sex it away, drug it away, busy it away, kid soccer it away, whatever the case may be. Rub some dirt in it, put up your bootstraps, whatever the case may be. And all that's doing is bypassing or overriding the trauma, which is what most of us have been taught to do. And then that's been passed down generationally. Like, oh, no, time heals all wounds. You'll be fine. Time does not heal wounds. Work heals wounds. The work. And what we say is we have to go through the trauma, not around it. We have to go through it. We have to have a new relationship with that part that once upon a time was traumatized. And that's the work. So when I say, in order to heal the trauma, you got to love the trauma, when you simply have to reestablish a new relationship. And that relationship is a loving relationship, a validating relationship, an open relationship. And what we instruct our clients to do in the very beginning is simply begin a conversation by recognizing when you're triggered. And this is what, when we first start our work with our clients, we simply say, when you feel triggered, when you feel that coming up and rising up inside of you, you're like, is simply to say this: I see you. I hear you. How are you? What do you need right now? Which is interesting, because wouldn't we all want somebody to talk to us that way? Well, so do our parts, right?
I could see how it's like, what'd you say? Drink it away, sex it away, drug it away, whatever. And it's like, I was like, yep, I tried all those, and then it's like, yep, we gotta, eventually it's like, we're right back where we started. Um, and we're no better by trying to escape, right, from, these emotions, from these feelings that you're feeling, push it down, right? That's another kind of, strategy that, maybe like, I could imagine my father's generation or his father's generation really, saying like, really, do you guys really need to talk to your parts and all those things? Like, I just took my parts out back, shot it in the head, and went to work the next day. And they probably kind of did, but did it help them? I mean, I don't think so. Did it help them connect with themselves? Did it help them with their relationships? Did it help them, really connect to their purpose in life and live that out? If we're going to be big people, we're going to really grow, we're going to really create some sort of legacy for our families. That legacy isn't just financial. That legacy is also, what are the traditions of your household? What are the values? What do you stand for? What do people think about when they think of you? How many people are around you when you die? And, assuming you go gracefully, like, these are the things, right, that people should be thinking about. You really can't do that unless you're doing the work that David's talking about here. You could try, but like, you're not going to make enough money for the people in your life um, to care as deeply about you as you'd want them to. It's really by doing this inner work. So this is really beautiful.